Back in 2021, the Suez Canal was blocked by a ship for 6 days. During that time period, you're probably wondering why your Golden Girls Complete Series DVD Special Edition took more than a half a year to get to you versus the normal few weeks that it takes. You're also probably wondering, how is this tech related? Well, let me ask you a question. Do you know what kind of ship it was that blocked the canal? It was a container ship. These are some of the biggest vehicles on the planet and are responsible for cheaply transporting cargo all over the world through various bodies of water. We've talked about containers in previous videos on this channel, and we're going to go ahead and continue that theme today by talking about one of the biggest container platforms around. This is B from Tay Talk Tech, and today I'm going to be telling you all about Docker, so stick with me. I have a favor to ask. If you like this type of video and want to see more content like it, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell button for notification. Also, don't forget to give this video a like if you like it. Let me know what you liked, didn't like, or if you have any comments, questions, concerns, or emotional outbursts down in the comments below. And lastly, stick around all the way to the end to get the most out of this video. Let's do this thing. All right, so let's go ahead and just do an introduction to Docker. I'm going to go ahead and start with the talking head. Now, Docker. It is a big, huge, phenomenal deal in the virtualization space. It's so big, in fact, that Red Hat, the IBM Linux company, used it to create their own container platform called Podman. Now, Podman is not something I want to cover in this video, but definitely let me know if that's something that you would like to know more about down in the comment section below. Now, what Docker does is in its name, because where do you keep containers? At the docks. Docker is a platform for managing containers available on all three major operating systems, including Windows, macOS, and Linux. The software that hosts the containers themselves is called the Docker engine. With Docker, you can actually manually configure containers, automate their deployment, and manage the containers themselves. Typically, you're going to access Docker through a command line interface, but Docker does offer the Docker desktop that will allow you to manage it through a graphical user interface, or GUI. Now, another popular option to manage it graphically is through a web application called Portainer. Now, Docker Desktop and Portainer are not something that I will be covering in this video, but definitely let me know down below if that's something that you would like covered in more detail. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the iPad. We're going to go ahead and shrink my face down. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Wrong one. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and talk about the architecture. Now, the architecture of Docker is going to be based on a client server model. So what does that mean? So we're going to have over here, we're going to have the Docker client. This will be like your command line / terminal. All right, now the other part of this is the server, which is going to be the Docker server. All right, and what's going to allow you to communicate between these two is going to be a REST API. So we're going to draw that here in the middle. That's REST, and then we're just going to API. So we've got the server on this side, we've got the REST API, then we've got the Docker server. Now, a lot of times, especially people that are new to networking, applications and stuff like that will think that when we say client server model, that the server is somewhere off on another premises in the cloud or something like that. But the whole point of a server is to host services, which is where they get the name server from. And a server can really be anything. I'm using this iPad right now, and it can actually act as a server. So that's just what's hosting the actual application. So these could actually be the same systems, and a lot of times they will be, because that's how I have my current setup. Is I have it on my Linux laptop, which is where I access it from typically, and then I also access it through. I can also access it remotely through SSH and stuff like that, and the server's actually hosted on that laptop as well. Now, the Docker daemon is what's going to make all of this happen. It's going to run in the background. That's going to be the Docker daemon. Let's just put that like that. All right, the Docker daemon is going to be working in the background to make all of this happen. Now, if you've watched a lot of my previous virtualization videos, you can see similarities here with KVM. KVM uses the libvirt API through Virsh to manage VMs, and all of this is run in the background by the libvirt daemon. So yeah, a lot in common there. The only difference here is that we have the REST API that's doing the communication, and we got the Docker server, Docker client, but still very, very similar to the way things are set up there. So let's go ahead and actually talk about the different components of Docker. Now, before I go ahead and take this off the screen here, I want to go ahead and just do something here between these, because this right here is going to be the Docker engine. Whoops. All of this combined is going to be the Docker engine. All right, so let me go ahead and delete this, and now we're going to be focusing more so on the actual Docker server. So let's go ahead and just do Docker server. All right, so now we're going to be talking about 3 different components that are part of the actual Docker server. This is going to be where the Docker is being hosted. So of course we have the Docker daemon. All right, and then underneath the actual Docker daemon, we're going to have the actual containers. We're going to go ahead and put down here. We're going to go ahead and put like a bigger box here. And these are the actual like small virtual machines that you're actually going to be interacting with, hosting your services and all of that kind of stuff. And then the other thing you're going to have is going to be the actual Docker registry, which is basically just a repository for Docker image templates. Now, let's go ahead and draw that on here. This is going to be our registry over here on this side. And then we'll have all of those images inside here. All right, and then now when we're talking about Docker, registries, let me just actually put a little thing right here between these two because these two are related. Now, a word of caution: be careful using Docker registries. Make sure that you validate the Docker image that you want to use. So make sure you're getting it from a reputable source. Docker has its own registry, which is going to be called the Docker Hub. You can also create your own private repository. So just be mindful. Look at the source when you're actually looking at the image repository. Look and see where these images are coming from, because you don't necessarily want to trust Joe Blow's Ubuntu image from somewhere out on the web. That could be super dangerous and can take out your entire system. If something was something was malicious going on. So, all right, awesome. Now, that's pretty much all I wanted to cover here about Docker. Now, I do plan on covering this topic in more detail in future videos, so make sure you subscribe for those. I just wanted to be able to give you a brief introduction to Docker, just to kind of give you a small little tidbit, because I know sometimes what people will do is they'll go ahead and create the entire video, intro, commands, and all that stuff, but I prefer it to be a little bit more digestible, usually hopefully around 10, 20 minutes at the most, but we're going to keep this one short. But yeah, and I plan on doing additional videos in the future again, so make sure you're subscribed for those. I do plan on covering installing, using it, different commands, and stuff like that. I'm not really sure how many videos that's going to be as of yet, but stay tuned for that. Now, have you checked out my Linux virtualization series? No? Well, let me ask you this. What the heck are you waiting for? Go check it out. It's pretty awesome. If you've actually already checked that out, go ahead and check out this other video instead. Now, remember, mistakes make you better, so keep on making them. Thank you so much for watching my video, and have the greatest of days.